must turn on all microphones and prove that they are turned on. Humans speaking?
I can say words.
Speaking and stuff.
Great. Now, can that be heard in a stream? Can I get a stream confirmation?
Yep.
Fantastic. Are the rest of you looking at the stream?
I am now.
Currently only see one viewers. Huh. Cool. Can't trust the viewer count. Love it. Thanks, Streamlabs. All right, kids. We will recap the last session, which was session 17.
Anne's watching.
Yes. One of my favorite humans ever, Hearthsinger, is the most loveliest of humans, and she is very nicely watching us, and I am not nervous at all about this. Okay, so session 17 recap. Geth catches up with most of the rest of the group at the docks, Brandon and Marthala having headed off on their own. The dockmaster gave them the name of a flower grower, Korlak, who had the dragon scale flower. Next, they were pointed towards a fellow named Roland, who asked them to discreetly deliver some cargo back to the docks in exchange for the plant's lily's tongue. Night had fallen, so they all headed back to the inn to sleep before heading back out the next day. You have all taken a long rest. You learned that the whole town is shady as fuck, that it has enough of an underbelly that you can get things in trade, that the dockmaster is a hub of unusual activity, and that they are very good at piecing together various sources of information. The RP point went to Quentin for coining the phrase, "We pieced it together through various sources," and honorable mentions went to Brandel for handing Quentin the list of ingredients instead of handing it to Geth like Quentin asked him to, Harlick for the unseen servant causing havoc and then using a glass shattering noise as an affirmative to a question being asked of him, Quentin acting drunk to find Roland for no discernible reason, Geth giving the dockmaster a high five instead of a coin when the dockmaster clearly wanted to be paid for his time, and Geth persuading the guards to go investigate the glass shattering instead of paying attention to what you guys were doing. There is also an RP point on the table for Marthala from session 16 for that Sims moment that you didn't get to use last time.
Correct.
Marthala. So Marthala and Quentin both have RP points. Questions or concerns before we get started?
My only concern is that I will never remember to use it.
I really don't know how to help you with that, Mr. I have a million dice and could possibly put a unique dice next to the other dice that I'm going to roll
That's
to remember.
a really good idea.
Yeah, I know. I'm really smart.
I stole
How long
have you been playing D&D and you haven't told me that?
/ I stole it from Thornwatch.
Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I have been followed by Hearthsinger. Oh, I'm so excited right now. Okay. Any questions before we get started?
Oh.
Oh, no.
I'm a mod. I think I can fix that.
No, don't fix it. I like it like that.
Okay. She said, "Yeah, Thornwatch."
Sorry, Anne. I appreciate your 4 messages were deleted. I should get a moderator. I need more viewers. I need at least 15.
I am a moderator.
You're not a moderator, you're a player. I need 15 consistent viewers. Like you and Nate, I think, are moderators. Yeah, I need a moderator that's gonna like pay attention to the chat, not the game. Anyway. And like have rule books open, so when I'm like, what's the rule to that? And tech, for some reason, magically doesn't know they can look stuff up. So I'm looking for a moderator, folks, and 10 other people to watch us consistently. All right. Did you guys have any questions about what happened last time?
No.
Cool. You guys have woken up the next morning. You've been in this inn for about 3 days at this point. So Marie's got a pretty good routine going with you when you guys come down. She doesn't really take orders anymore. She just puts food in front of you. She's as cheerful as always, and you can hear her singing in the back. And Gorko seems to be really happy. Like he's bustling around as well. He seems to be, fixing things, and he's developed some interesting solutions for getting like reaching things and stuff. So that's all going really well. I forgot to
Does
ask
he
Guess.
seem to be in better spirits?
He does seem to be in better spirits. He's not. He's more somber than you would expect. Um, before he found out his master had died, it was like it wasn't a real possibility for him until he saw it, and
Hmm.
so there's there are still odd moments if you watch him um, where he'll look really sad when he thinks no one's watching him, but he's putting on a good face and he's got a little more energy. So this is probably a good fit for him, you would assume.
Okay. Growth.
Did you say gross?
I said growth.
Growth. Yes.
Not gross. He's not gross.
That's
No.
growth.
I think we all decided he's exceptionally cute.
Emotions, gross.
Gross. All right, so you guys are waking up the next morning. I would like to remind you that you have of a couple of things. One, you have found 2 of the 3 ingredients for that Geth had on his list of ingredients in order to try and cure the dragon. I forgot to ask Geth. Luth, will you ping him and see if it's okay if we puppet him or if he wants me to do something else?
That is a very good question.
We talked this morning.
And
Did you ask?
There we go.
him?
Yes, yeah, he's fine with that.
he's fine with what?
With you puppeting.
Okay. Okay, so I will puppet him. So he's sitting at the table looking at this list, and it looks like he's thinking. I don't know what Geth would do as a thinking gesture, but insert Geth's thinking gesture here, like rubbing his chin or like fiddling with his hair or whatever. A thinking gesture here, pasted. So you found 2 of the 3 ingredients. You got the first ingredient tip from the Dockmaster. The first and second. You got the first ingredient from Corlac the flower seller, and the second ingredient from that guy that had you move boxes. And the third ingredient is called the silver bear, and it's a kind of rock that's only found in this region. And that's kind of all you know about it. He didn't tell you where to find it, but he's the last person you spoke of that knew where it might be. You were directed there originally by a flower seller and an herb seller in another part of town. You were also contracted by the City Watch by Lieutenant Rate to investigate the murder that's on the loose.
That's right.
And you have collected the first half of the fee for that. You're also waiting for some weapons and other items to be made for you from the blacksmith, and you were looking to heal the dragon. This is, of course, in the intervening time between your last job, which was investigating the rift underneath the city, where you found that weird device, and the next job, which Felix also gave you, to go find the next piece of the device. So we're in downtime right now. You guys are doing a heck of a lot. And in the last session we did, we used, they were skill check challenges, which Marthala and Brandon, I don't think I went over with you guys. Do you know what a skill check challenge is?
I have to assume it has a lot of rolling.
Okay. So just general recap. So a lot of D&D is like combat based, and so that's where you get your rolls in. And when you do role playing, there doesn't tend to be a lot of rolls. And so one of the nice things about it's actually just called a skill challenge apparently. One of the nice things about a skill challenge is that you're working those role playing muscles. And so what I'll do is put a challenge down in front of you, and I want you to use literally the skills that you're proficient in to do these checks. So for you, Marthala, your proficient skills are acrobatics, history, persuasion, and religion. And Brandon, yours are deception, perception, persuasion, religion, and sleight of hand. So once the challenge starts, you're only going to be able to use those to move the story forward.
Only those.
And I have...
Let me use my history.
Well, so that's the thing is like, it forces you, it gives you an opportunity to try to use your skills in a way you might not have originally thought of, right? Like, so, a history check would be like, well, I remember it from my past, or I read a lot of books about historical stuff. Or it could be bent in a different way, right? And I don't remember. I know we had one or two last time that were a little off the wall, but I don't quite remember any examples. But one of the examples from a video I watched about it was somebody used survival to see which way the air was flowing in a tunnel system when they were trying to find their way out. And that's not typically how survival is used necessarily. And could have used like nature for the same thing, and that's a little bit different as well. So it worked really well last time, and I specifically designed these challenges to make sure that you guys had the skill. Like I'm not going to put any challenges in front of you that is like, well, you guys don't have any skills you're proficient in, so it sucks to be you. Like I didn't do that. That's not the point. This is, yeah. Does that make sense? Sorry, I've had a really long day.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Cool. So for the stream's context, a lot of us were just at PAX East, and we all were working the entire time, so we're all super tired.
And C2E2.
And
They're all over the place.
C2E2, yeah, so lots of cons. So pardon this GM's squishy brain. Okay, so that's what a skill challenge is, and that's what we'll be doing today. Any questions or concerns about that?
Nope.
I'm always concerned about Brandon.
So you guys are all down at the breakfast table munching on food. Marie's in the back singing, and Gorko is upstairs doing something. What do you guys do next?
I would love to grab a couple of cups of coffee, I would assume, and kind of just walk over and sit down next to Geth and plop one in front of him and go, I just love how upbeat she is. Like, I love it when she sings. What you looking at?
And he'll look over and say, yeah, Marie's great. She makes the best coffee. I'm looking at this, and he like nods at your coffee cup. He's pretty close to the bottom. And as he says that, Marie comes out and is like, and it's almost like she knows when the coffee's low, and she keeps pouring. She fills everybody's cup up and goes back out the back. Anybody need anything? Nope. Okay, let me know. And goes out the back. And he shows you the list, and he says, well, I've been, I really want to heal Dab. That wing is really still hurting her, and she can't get a good enough breath to use any of her breath weapons, like any of those spells, and we just can't leave her like that. Like we all agreed, and I couldn't really heal her much the other day, so we were told that, I was told that I think the Dockmaster told, I forget, but I think the Dockmaster said, you really need like you need like a catalyst, like more powerful healing for a dragon, because they're kind of like built on magic. And so these are some ingredients that I've either heard about in my travels, or frankly there are myths about. I'm really reaching here. And so we found these first two, and he points and he says, the Lily's Tongue we got last night, and the dragon scale flower we got too. Oh, Luth, you drew a picture of that, didn't you? Sorry to break character. Oh, he's muted. That means Ipsy's doing something naughty when he gets back. I'll have him share.
I think
No,
he
I was
said something about taking the dog.
Yeah, I was taking the dog out.
sorry.
And I left my phone in the house because I'm dumb. I did. I will post that into the chat, and I can post in Twitch as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that. And then I'll add it to the tweet that got sent out earlier as well. It's really pretty, and it's exactly what was in my brain, and I love it. Anyway, so we found the dragon scale flower from a guy named Korlak, and we got the Lily's Tongue, which is another flower with like weird, like a weird greenish petal with like frayed edges on the edge of the petal. And he shows you, Marthala, he shows you both. He's got the dragon scale flowers actually on the table in front of him in a vase that Marie had brought him when he got home, got back to the inn the night before. And it's got all the roots, and he says the roots have actually grown since last night. You can see they were only like like a half an inch long, and now they're like an inch and a half. So this could be kind of interesting. I don't think we can grow it ourselves, and hopefully we can find the last ingredient before this dies. And then he also pulls a little glass bottle out of his pocket with 5 or 6 of these other petals in there. And he says, the last one's a stone called the Silver Bear. The Dockmaster said something about it, but he wanted us to go get these first 2 first. So I don't know where we're going to find that, but yeah, that's what we're doing.
Well, if the Silver Bear is any bit as pretty as these are, then at least it'll be a pleasant journey. Can I smell the flower that's sitting on the table in front of us?
Yeah. It doesn't actually have a scent to it. But when you breathe in, it's you know how there are, like, on a really hot day, like a really comparatively chiller breeze will sweep past your face, and you take a deep breath, and like it feels like your lungs are full of cool air even though it's really hot outside. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Mm-hmm.
A version of that happens when you're smelling it. It's not really that hot in here or anything, but like it just smells like very clean air when you breathe in around it.
That's all. I'm used to flowers smelling. But so do we need to go back to the Dockmaster to find the last ingredient?
My apologies. And he shrugs and gestures at Quentin. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, the Dockmaster, of course, will come back to check a little bit.
You have turned into a robot.
You sound like a
Oh
robot.
no! You're back.
That was kind of funny. It was like he was talking in like super slow motion.
I know.
Any
It's
better?
great.
Yeah, like a problematic
It's still
robot.
bad, Luke.
Okay, we're
Brennan, do you?
It was like robot, but you could still like hear what he was saying.
What's that? Is a flower?
I believe what he was saying was that the Dockmaster did mention it.
I'll just join on my phone for now while I fix my computer.
Great.
Sorry, what did I miss?
You sound great. So
Okay.
Geth sort of shrugged and looked at you and was like, "What do you think?"
Yeah, the Dockmaster, of course, wanted us to come back.
Oh no! How's that?
You're okay.
Sorry, it auto joined. Once more with feeling, the Dockmaster, of course, wanted us to come back down and chat with him this morning for the last piece.
While he's answering that question, may I attempt to sleight of hand a piece of bacon off of his plate?
Yes, please roll sleight of hand.
I know I just gave you a hug
There
like
we go.
18 hours ago, but I want to give you another one already.
What'd you roll?
22.
And we're gonna do this against your Quentin's
My
passive
passive?
perception.
Yeah,
What's
that's
that?
what we did last time. Sorry, all my devices hate me.
It is a tough life.
It's I think it's like a 15. Let me double check. It's loading. Passive is 17. Sorry, I lied.
Can someone have Geth's sheet up?
Yeah, I'll pull that up.
Okay.
I've got it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, he
I
super
don't see shit.
steals a piece of bacon from you. You do not notice a damn thing. I'll say you get 2 pieces of bacon. That was a really good roll.
But do I notice it happening?
What's your passive?
Oh God, it's not that high.
Then I don't think
It's,
so.
it's an 11, but like I know him.
Nope. You see nothing, Jon Snow.
I'm going to very, very obviously munch on this bacon now.
And I'll say there wasn't any bacon on your plate prior to this. So it's
So
pretty
if you're
obvious.
like mid sentence, I'd be like, "Yeah, I want it for the next piece," and just kind of like grunt and glare at him and continue on.
It's a fine establishment. Good food here.
You could just ask her for bacon. You don't have to steal it every day.
I already ate mine.
I don't feel like that's true. Hey Marie, could I have some bacon, please?
And she says, I just cooked up a batch, of course. And she yells this from the back. She says, 1 minute, my love. And then she comes out with like steaming, just crispy. And she says, "This side's a bit more crispy. This one's a bit more chewy. Take your pick." And she waits for you guys to point, and she loads up everybody's plate, regardless of... Is anybody a vegetarian?
You haven't seen Drew's eat meat yet.
She skips your plate, but everybody else, she
Marzala
piles up bacon.
actually does not eat any of the bacon, but rather pushes all of hers onto Brandon's plate.
Quentin will stand up and reach over Brandon's head as if he's not there and grab a piece.
Boy, mate.
Oh, sorry. Didn't
Watch
see.
where your sleeves are going.
So I suppose we're going back to the docks today?
Yeah, I'm packed up and ready to go, and everybody else is.
All
Are you
right.
quite done
We should
eating?
probably look in on that murderer situation as well.
Right. We put a lot of effort. Yours truly put a lot of effort into making sure we got this deal here. You know, this whole money thing.
I
Now-
don't see you looking for any murders.
Of course not. I'm fine just not doing it. We already got half the money, right?
I don't think that's the right thing to do, Brennan.
Look, I got lots of work to do. I don't have time to go chasing feet.
You're supposed to be a man of God. God would want you to take down the murderer. He doesn't like murder.
He'd like us to defeat him.
Oh.
All right, guys. I have to quit playing D&D now.
Ooh, boy.
It's
So-
over.
I just choose to not hear those remarks, and that seems to be a good way to live my life.
You get a chuckle out of Quentin for that one.
He's cheering right next to me.
I'm sure
Right,
he
then.
is. That is the ultimate goal for anybody that uses puns, is to get to whoever is around them to like be
Yes.
that upset. Yeah.
Yeah. What, can somebody fill me in on this flower thing? I was off doing the Lord's work yesterday. I don't. You know my opinion on dragons, right? If we heal this dragon, then it's a big dragon, and big dragons eat little fellas.
Geth frowns at you and he says, "Dab has been nothing but helpful to us."
For now.
I think Quentin will speak up and say, so how well do you know your colors?
Boy, mate, a dragon's a dragon.
That's not
If
quite
there's any
true.
color he knows, it's gold.
So this is bronze, and the metallics are actually quite benevolent. They may be a little rough around the edges sometimes, but in general, they're usually pretty good.
You ever seen one eat a goat?
Yeah, but I've eaten
Right.
goat, so what's the big deal?
Messy. And they don't always pay attention to the things going on around them when that goat's being eaten. I'm just saying. Maybe we let the dragon go do its thing. We go do our thing. We go separate ways.
You know what else dragons are known for?
Eating people.
Revenge.
And hoarding things. Treasures, trinkets, shiny objects.
Right.
Perhaps our dragon friend would be very grateful.
You know, I've had a change of heart. Let's go find out how to fix this dragon's hoard.
Dragon dear.
Right. And take us to its hoard.
Well, let's not focus on that part. By the way, just eat your bacon. And
So in
Talk
my
about-
notes, I tried to write down that you had a change of heart, and instead I wrote down he has a change of hoard, and I'm just gonna leave it.
Perfect.
Right. That works for the Lord.
For the
I
Lord,
think
yes.
Quentin's going to lean over to Marthala and say, did he ever run a scan where he dressed himself up as a goat?
a scam.
I mean, did he ever give a sermon where he was dressed up as a goat?
Ooh. I mean, no. Usually he just dresses like that. Sometimes he stands on a box to make himself a bit taller.
Okay. All right. Well,
That
is
sounds right.
everybody ready to go?
Right then. You gonna finish that bacon, mate?
I just slide you the plate, not even look at you.
Yeah. I'm gonna stuff it in my pocket.
Pocket bacon.
Oh dear. I'm going to use that later. Okay, so you guys.
Jeez, mate, you get some of your salad food.
What?
I'm fine.
So Geth stands up. He tucks the. Sorry, I'm trying to train my dice, and it is distracting. I can't train my dice and talk at the same time, apparently. So Geth stands up, tucks the list of ingredients in his pocket, and heads towards the door.
Point of order. Is the blacksmith on the way to the docks since it's been the 2 days that the rush job was supposed to be?
No, it is not.
Cool.
I was going to ask about that. Was that today or was it tomorrow that would be ready?
I'm going to say today.
Okay.
Because I feel like it. But the blacksmith is through the north gates, and the docks are on the east side of the city.
And are we closer to the gates and thus the blacksmith, or that gate in the blacksmith, or are we closer to the docks at this point?
You are equidistant from both. I'm not
That's
being a dick. I drew a map.
No. I believe you. You have maps for everything. Did you say anything out loud, Druge?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, so if Geth is heading out, Druge will kind of lean up off the counter and follow him out.
And are you heading towards the docks, or are you going to make an argument to go to the blacksmith?
No, I'm not in any particular hurry. Docks are fine.
Okay.
Same.
So Geth heads towards the docks. Who's following him?
Go with.
I'm going.
Yeah, might as well.
You all got. Nobody's gonna finish their breakfast. You're gonna leave all this food here.
I think everyone pretty much finishes their breakfast.
Right. I'm gonna grab a few more pockets full of bacon.
Marie actually comes out and gives you like a piece of brown paper to wrap the bacon in.
No thanks, I'm all good, and I'll go out.
Okay, so you guys head down to the docks. Brandon, you have a couple of dogs following you, whining about the bacon.
What? Oh.
I will toss them a piece of bacon.
More dogs come. When you toss a piece of bacon, they fight over it.
I'm going to walk quicker.
They just keep following you. Hey, Luce.
1 second.
Where's the dog? For the internet's information, my tiny puppy is trying to get into the room where I'm running this game from instead of playing with her toys out by Papa. It's really annoying. Okay, so you guys head towards the docks. You get down there. Brandon, at this point, there's like 15 dogs around you.
Can I try to slip the bacon into Quentin's pockets?
Oh my god.
Roll me a sleight of hand.
New dice.
Who dis?
Oof.
You should have taken the other one.
No.
Combo shot.
11.
That does not beat loose passive perception. Or
Is the bacon
Quentin's.
like wrapped up in anything, or is he
No.
just like
Nope.
literally grabbing
He's
it with?
just got fistfuls of bacon.
What's happening that didn't pass my?
You'll find out.
Brandon
Just wait.
tried to slip. So Brandon tries to slip like a fistful of bacon into your pocket, but you see him like.
I let him
like,
do it.
He trips over. You let him do it.
Yep, I let him do it.
Okay, so now
Even
the
if
dogs,
you continue with your description, even if he trips, I let
he
him do
kind
it.
of like trips over a small dog and like bumps into your hip a little bit, and so you feel it as he puts a fistful of bacon into your pocket. So now the dogs are following both of you.
So
I'll just kind of reach down and pet one and keep going.
Is that obvious enough that Marthala notices?
Oh yeah.
She's just gonna kind of hang back with the dogs, like walking in step with them, watching this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of giggle to herself, especially when Brandon trips.
Good to know. So you guys roll into onto the dock, and the dock master has his usual table set up, and he with that giant book and the flock of young children around him running errands and stuff, and he's bellowing at one of them, who's screeching back, and he sees you all coming with this pack of dogs, and he stops and he says, "What in the world?"
How many dogs are with us at this point?
Like 15.
Holy shit.
And they're all different sizes, and some of them look like pets. Most of them look like street dogs, but there's like a couple.
Yeah.
Like, there's some little like poof ball with a bow, and there's another like big old like houndy type thing with like a fancy leather collar.
I'll kind of squat down and like reach into my pocket and just look at Brandon, and then pull the bacon out and start breaking it like a small enough piece I can distribute as many as I can, and kind of toss them out so they can chase them.
The street dogs are mean, so I'm gonna need you to roll a dexterity.
What? No animal handling?
Oh, sure. Roll an animal handling.
Okay. Because you'd like definitely try to like smack them on the nose if they're being jerks about it, but of all the dice I have on me, I don't have any out. 1 second. I'm going to use my
You're going to use your RP point? Good.
Yeah. Oh, it worked. I rolled a 9 and then a 2, and I have a +3 to animal handling.
Oh, God.
So my total is 12.
That gets you over 10, which was the DC for this check. So a couple of them get a little mouthy, but you are quick enough to, discipline nicely and reward that new discipline with bacon.
Yep.
The dockmaster is just sort of like rolling his eyes and is like, "Get those animals out of here. I'm running a place of business. Do you mind?"
I kind of chuckle and shoo him away.
They do not shoo.
Eating my pocket bacon.
They back up and they just stare ravenously at Brannon.
This is good bacon.
Okay, so the dockmaster's like, "Well, what can I do for you? Did you find what you were looking for yesterday?" And Geth says,
could
"We found."
Could you tell us? Oh.
No, go ahead, Marcella.
I was just gonna, we're looking for the bear now. The bear.
And Geth coughs and says, "Silver bear, silver bear."
Oh yes, the silver bear.
And the dockmaster says, "Of course, of course. Well, did you find the other 2 things you were looking for?"
Yes. Yeah. They're around here somewhere. Yes.
So would you say that the dockmaster did you quite the favor?
I like where this is going.
I'd say you did us quite the part of a favor.
He laughs and he says, "I see, young master. Well, here's the thing. What I know about the silver bear is a bit of a trade secret. And giving you young masters that secret is it's worth a bit of something. Now, seeing as how I've done you a favor, and I'll be doing you even more of a favor by telling you this trade secret, which could get me in quite a bit of trouble with thems that know. I think we might be doing a bit of a trade here."
What kind of?
And I kind of like hip check Brandon forward.
So, I forgot to mention that this is the beginning of the challenge.
Oh. What are my proficiencies?
So, look at your proficiencies. Use those skills. Useful ones for this will be persuasion, investigation, and probably survival at some point.
May I attempt to persuade him to just give us the information?
Absolutely. Oh, hang on. I forgot to tell you guys something. So in the skill challenge, if you get 3 successes, the whole thing fails.
3 successes or 3 failures?
I meant failures. If you roll 3
Okay.
failures out of what I imagine to be about 9 or 10 checks, once you hit the 3rd failure, the whole thing is done.
And you said
wanna be-
persuasion, investigation, and what?
Survival will probably
Survival. Thank you.
probably be your good ones. Now again, you can use anything, but
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead and roll persuasion.
Come on, mate. We're on the up and up here. Just go ahead and give it to us. Oish. 13.
Before he answers,
Mm-hmm.
could I go ahead and add, well, look at this crew. We could help you out with anything you had threatening you in the future. Why not just take an IOU?
And he says, "That's exactly what I'm looking for. Of course. I'd be happy to trade the information for a future favor. Of course, of course."
Oh, that sounds wonderful then.
So that was a result of Brandon's successful persuasion roll. He was like on the fence about just giving it to you for nothing, but what he was angling for was an IOU. So successful first check. I also forgot to mention that once you use a skill, you cannot use it again for this particular skill challenge. Because I didn't mention that before you used persuasion, I will let you use it one more time because that was my mistake.
He's not the only persuasive one here, though.
I know. So, like, if it gets to a point where, like, it's the only thing that can be done, but I really encourage you to use your other skills if you can moving forward. Sound good?
Sure.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry.
I will cut it. I've used it. It's done. It's capped. Other party members can step up.
So he leans in and he says, "All right, here's what you gotta do." She said, trying to find her notes. He says, "So Silver Bear," it's a really interesting ringing noise. He says, "So Silver Bear is this funny rock that you find around here. Lots of like limestoney type rock around in this area, and there are pockets of this stone. It's really smooth and kind of oblong, and it's just like embedded all over the place around here. But it's pretty useless. It's really hard, but it's really brittle. Like it shatters pretty easily, and it's not really that pretty. But," and he looks around and he like shoos away some of his runners, and he says, "But if you melt it at just the right temperature and you mix it with just the right other metals in like just the right amounts, it gives the thing that you're making this silvery sheen." So not many people know this, and it's hard to come by because you have to know all the right pieces. There's only one person in the city that has the know-how to use this. And he like looks at you guys like, "You know what I mean?"
I do not know what you mean.
Really clever lady who makes stuff out of metal that you guys have met already.
I was going to ask to roll an insight on that, but yeah, I guess we can take that.
Oh, I probably should have done that, huh?
Yeah.
So tired.
It's okay.
Is there do we as a group or I as an individual know enough about the town that we're in to know where we might be able to find something that fits that description?
Okay, so since Quentin has figured it out and I was a dumb butt and should have asked for a roll, do you want to try and roll something for that?
Oh no, I was
If you
just
aren't
thinking
Quentin?
of where to find the actual stone. I thought you had to take the stone
directly.
and then change it with the blacksmith's help.
No. What he's saying is the stone is useless. And while it's found in the rock, like you have to be able to mine rock to get to it, right? So nobody gets to it because it's useless.
Gotcha.
But it is a very rarely known side effect is all this mixing he was melting and mixing he was talking about, and he's referencing somebody like a blacksmith who would know how to use this, and there's only one in the area that does, like goes to all the bother of getting one of these. Like it's so common and yet useless that no one has it, kind of thing. It's like if you try to go buy a dandelion weed, like you can't. Like they're everywhere, but like when you want one, you can't find one, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Right. So, this blacksmith chap, then, they would have this stone that we need?
And he says, "That's right, young master. Of course, yes."
Right, then, you chaps know any blacksmiths? I didn't say any in the city yet.
I'll look at Druge.
Well, I haven't met her particularly, but Quentin stopped by the shop.
Yeah, I could show us on the way. It's actually on the way to Dab, believe it or not.
What are you all talking about?
Oh, we did a little shopping the other day, and I put an order in with a pretty clever lady. Think she might be able to help us out. We can head that way.
Did you stop by a brothel?
Only if you count weapons as loves.
Oh. Well, yes, I can enjoy that. Yeah.
Ew. Okay, so you guys head out to the
I think
blacksmith.
you went left when I went right.
Ew.
Yeah, we'll head that way.
So you head out to the blacksmith's. So right outside the gate. Excuse me. Right outside the gate to the left is quite a large barn, like low barn-like structure. And it's really sort of open, like an open layout. And there are 6 or 7 individuals working in this space. And so there's a forge in the back, and there's other various sort of stations set up to do different kinds of metalworking. Everything from pounding out a sword to making nails to some finer looking work in the back. The simple stuff seems to be done more up front, like lopping off nails and things, and the more delicate work seems to, like the further back you get, the more delicate the work gets. You don't get very far in before an apprentice sets down their tools and comes over, wiping their hands on their apron, and says, "Hi, what can I help you with?"
We're looking for the bear.
And the apprentice looks confused and says, we don't have a bear here.
The bear. Geth, come here.
And Geth says, we're looking for a rock called the Silver Bear. And the apprentice says, I think you'll need to speak to my master. One moment. And she gestures for you to stay there, and then she heads to the back. And in the back corner by the forge is a very tall, broad-shouldered lady in a leather apron. And the apprentice, she's far enough back you can't hear anything, but the apprentice says something to her, and she turns around. And she sees you, Quentin, and Druge, and she kind of like puts her hands up like, "Oh, hey, guys." And she doesn't say anything. She comes over, and she's wiping off her hands on a cloth, and she points at Quentin, and she points at Druge, and she like holds up one finger like, "Wait, just 1 minute," and then and she shakes your hand, Quentin, and she holds out her hand to shake.
I'll shake it back. Yeah.
Yours, Druge, and she's
You like shaking with 2 fingers.
Yeah, she grins at you, and she's looking at your tusks very appreciatively, and she kind of gestures you towards the back. So you guys move towards the back, and it gets a little more crowded and a little more messy the further back you go. And at the very, very back of this like shed-like area, like past the forge, which is about 2/3 of the way back, there are all these tables where finished pieces are all laid out. And I have forgotten almost entirely what you guys ordered.
I ordered I have it written down.
I remember the shieldy thing and the tusks thing.
It was.
Is that it?
That and then a portable RAM, I think, was the other thing.
Right.
Yep.
Is that it?
There were also some nets.
Nets.
That we
And
got from the
wires
general
as
store. Yeah, we got
But you
all
brought
those.
them here to be weighted, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So she starts with the nets, and they're the same nets that you have, but it looks like they've been each strand has been reinforced with a wind of metal, like a loose coil around each of the strands, and then where there's a join, there's a flat, like rounded disc, so it's wider than it is tall, and it's only like maybe a half an inch, and it's been sort of woven, like it's been like tied to where every other join in the net. And she hands it to you, Druge, and she picks up the second one and like hefts it. And she gestures, she points over to the right, and there's like a pile of like hay bales and sandbags. And there's some arrows sticking out of it, like an axe sticking out of it, like a throwing knife. She gestures at it, and she like takes a couple swings like back and forth, and then chucks the net, and you see it open up and land over like a sandbag. And she looks back at you and gestures at your net that you're holding.
I will also chuck my net in that direction.
So you're unfamiliar with this weight, and so it doesn't open up the same way, but you can see what you did wrong almost immediately. And so it doesn't quite like open up all the way, but it's got just the weight that you wanted.
Perfect.
And you can see that none of it's gonna jingle, necessarily. Like there's nothing hanging off of it to get caught on anything. It's a very solid net.
Great. He will nod appreciatively at her and go collect them.
She gestures next to what looks like a chunk of log, and it's about 3 feet long, and it's about a foot around. Like the radius is about a foot. But what's interesting about it is it's been capped on both ends in metal, and the metal looks like slag metal. So it's gonna be very. It doesn't look pretty, but it's good, solid, thick metal. And you can see how thick it is by the way it comes up around the ends of this chunk of wood. And there have been handholds fashioned out of where the metal sinks into the wood, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And she grabs one of the handles and like lifts up on one end, and then she lets go, and it thunks back to the wood, and like it actually cracks the wood a little bit of the table that it's sitting on. And she grins up at you, Druge, and gestures at it like, have a go.
Drew smiles when it like cracks the table a little bit and just picks it up with one hand to kind of feel the weight.
It's extremely heavy. It's not too heavy for you, but you can imagine a way that you can use this to definitely bash down some doors. Basically, it'll save you a shoulder. It'll be a little more effective than your shoulder, but it's a good tool.
Cool. He will nod appreciatively again and try and figure out a way to strap it to the rest of what he's wearing, probably across the back.
When she sees you doing this, she looks around for a minute, and then she picks up like a thing that holds hot metal, whatever that's called, and tongs. Thank you. She taps it against the forge that's nearby, and like a ringing sound rings out, and all of her apprentices immediately look at her. And she taps 2 fingers on her belt and holds up one finger, and one of them says, "I got it," and starts digging around and brings back like a leather strap. And she looks at it, and she shakes her head, and she measures it with her hands. It's about maybe 4 feet long, and then she opens her hands out wider, and the apprentice goes, "Oh, okay," and goes back digging around. And she looks at you, Druge, and points at the apprentice and holds up one finger like, "Just wait 1 minute." Next, she turns to Quentin, and she looks at you, and she taps her arm, and like looks questioningly at you, like which arm? She taps both arms.
And I'll kind of like takes me half a second. Oh yeah, and then I'll kind of hold out my left arm, like I was thinking this one.
And she smiles, and she like, "Oh, good," and she looks down at the ground for a second, and she looks up at you, and she points at you, and she points at herself, and she like makes a gesture back and forth, like, "We talked, right?" And she points at her left arm, and she scratches her head like almost comically, like she's like overacting this.
Mm-hmm.
And she holds up one finger and does like an arc, and then she holds up a second finger and does like an arc, and then she holds up one, like her fist with a finger pointing up, like "aha," and then she brings you over to the table. She's like miming out, like, that one kind of stumped me, but then I had this idea, and what she shows you is what looks like a blunt triangle of metal, of wood, and reinforced with metal. And she holds it up, and she shows you. She like twists it around so you can see the edging. It comes down to like a flat edge. And she pulls out a dagger, and she runs a finger along the blade, and you can see like a little bit of blood. And then she runs a finger along the shield, and you don't see any blood. And she like raises an eyebrow at you, like, "See what I mean? Like, it's not blunt enough to cut, or it's not sharp enough to cut, but it's still a nice edge." And she shows you how to strap it to your arm, and it fits right between your wrist and your elbow. Is where it straps, is like right below your elbow and right above your wrist. And then the metal extends, like the wooden metal extends to about halfway past your wrist, like halfway between your wrist and the first set of knuckles. And then at your elbow, it extends about 6 inches past your elbow. So if you hold your arm down flat, maybe not 6 inches. How many? You're a big dude. I guess 4 inches. So it comes about halfway up the spot between your shoulder, the bone between your shoulder and your elbow. Nice. The wood is a weird silvery wood, and she raps on it, and it doesn't sound like wood. It sounds harder. The metal that's reinforcing it has been inlaid into it and has that edge, and is in cross pieces on the back, and then in like a square pattern on the front. So it's not a perfect square because it's that triangular shape, but it looks like it's cut into, or it's inlaid into four. So it makes 4 distinct sections, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Okay. And she gets out a dagger, and she pulls out a.
Your description is good. I'm just managing a puppy.
Yeah. So she looks around for a second, and she pulls out what looks like a piece of scrap from the shield, and she has that dagger in her hand still, and she scrapes it across the wood, and like it's not really scratching. And then she sets it on the table, and she takes the dagger and like stabs it into it, and like it like makes a little ding, but it doesn't like go through the wood. And she flips the dagger back around with the pommel and smashes it against the wood, and it does nothing. And so she's showing you how to strap it onto your arm, and she holds up the pommel of her dagger, and she holds up her arm like she has the shield, and like gets into like a ready
kind
position.
Of mirror. Yeah.
And then she like looks at you like, "You ready?"
I just nod.
And she slams the pommel of the dagger on it, and you feel the hit, but you don't feel the same force. So you realize like it's kind of absorbing the force of the hit too.
Awesome.
And I made stats for this. I forget what they are. I think it adds like +2 to your AC or something like that.
Great.
I forget what we talked about. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, that's what a standard shield would be, +2.
Great, +2 it is.
Yeah.
But it looks really fancy.
I'll just kind of look down at appreciate. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So say I'll look down, appreciate, and look down at it and kind of examine it, turn it around on my arm, and kind of give it a good flex and stuff, and I'll look up at her and just say, "You are a brilliant, brilliant woman."
And she grins, and she holds out her arm. She and like trying to get you to do the same thing. She checks all
Mhm.
the
Yep.
fit, and the straps have a little bit of give in them. So, but there's enough holes there that as the leather stretches over time to you, you'll be able
Okay.
to. But
Great.
if you want to strap it over something, there's enough strap there
Oh,
to strap it
interesting.
over something too. So if you like put a coat
Awesome.
on or something.
Right.
Martha's having some terrible gear envy over here.
What kind of? Do I notice how envious she is? Like, are you being super subtle about it?
I mean, I don't feel like she's subtle about much of anything when it comes to
That's kind of what I assumed. So I'll kind of like look at her, kind of like as I'm looking down and examining the shield. I'll look out of the corner of my eye at Marthala and just kind of wink.
She'll look at her shoes and kind of kick the dirt.
The blacksmith notices this happening and looks questioningly at Marthala and like points at different pieces of Marthala's armor and then makes sort of like a questioning gesture, like, "Is there anything you want?"
I mean, I guess she's gonna look at her chainmail and kind of shrug at that, but hand over her sword.
The blacksmith takes it and she twists it this way and that, and she balances it on one finger, and it just tips over right away. And she tries to find the balance point, and then she shakes her head like she's not quite finding it. And she hefts it and like swings it around in the air, and it looks like she knows what she's doing. And she looks thoughtful. And she looks up at you and makes like a money gesture, like rubs her fingers together, like, and like looks at you questioningly.
I'm gonna nod and then elbow Brannon.
Let me see what I have on me.
Gotta get my sugar daddy to pay for it.
There's my things that I have.
There's a spreadsheet.
Got them all printed out on my bed sheets. Yes, but the spreadsheet doesn't have what I have in my pocket. It only has one.
Nope.
Out there.
Lord knows how much you've stolen from me.
Whoa, now. Liberated. Liberated for the good of all. Right then. I will look around at the quality of work that's hanging around, and I will pass I will hand a pouch over. I will not say how much is in it. I'm messaging you, DM.
Okay, I was like, what?
You get to guess.
I was like, I don't want to guess. I want you to tell me. I'm supposed to know everything.
You do now.
Okay, I got it. She looks at the bag and she counts and she looks up like she's thinking, and she says, she pulls. She like gestures you over close to her, and she pulls out. An amount. Actually, I guess she would. Like, do you mind if she keeps the pouch? Can she give you
How much?
No, like give you like something else to hold it, like for like if she tucks it like into, fuck, I don't even know.
Nope. I will not take any back. I will look at Marthal and then I will push all the gold back into her hand.
So I guess what she'll do is she'll
Or,
start.
sorry, I will push the pouch back into her hand.
She'll start to pull some out, like to give it back to you, and you just push it back at her.
Yep.
She looks, and she looks at you, and she holds the sword again, like to find the balance. And when it's tippy, she points at that, and then she points at herself and like nods, like I'll fix that, right? And so you understand what she's trying to say there, and she like shakes the bag, and she shakes her head like that's not worth me improving this. This is too much.
Look, love, you take that pouch and you make whatever happens. So Angel Face over there swings a meaner sword. You take whatever that pouch is worth and do that.
She sort of looks thoughtful, and she gestures at the hilt of the sword. And then she holds up one finger and she goes like wait, and she like looks like she has an idea. And she nods at you like okay, I got it. And she tucks the and she like taps her head as she's tucking the purse in her belt. She taps her head like I have an idea. I got this. And then she looks at Quentin, and she holds up two fingers and like wiggles them, and it's the same gesture you remember her communicating how long it would take for your stuff last time.
So I'll say, oh, okay. And I'll kind of I'll turn to Marthal and say, take about 2 days, and I'll look back at the blacksmith and be like, right?
Sorry, what did you say? 2 days? Yeah, she says yeah, or she nods. Yeah. She's like yes, absolutely.
Marthal is gonna just like sheepishly turn bright pink and say, "Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Brandon."
She actually hands your sword back to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then she holds up two fingers at you and like wiggles them and like looks at Quentin and looks at you. Like 2 days. Come back in 2 days.
Okay. The silver bear, is that something that we would ask you about?
She holds up one finger when you start to ask her a question, and she turns back to the table and holds up the last thing that Quentin ordered. And
I'm sorry,
not
Quentin.
Quentin.
I did that.
Quentin didn't order this at all. Druge ordered it. Druge, will you actually describe these and describe them very basically, and then I'll embellish on them if you'd like, because I don't actually know what these look like.
Sure. They are essentially short swords that have tips at the end that can clasp onto his tusks. So think like War Elephant with like metal tips to the tusks.
So that it sort of like almost clips onto the end of the tusks to extend them with like metal, like a bayonet.
Yep.
Great. So what?
That's hardcore.
What she so it essentially looks like a short sword, but you notice that it's the same width as about 2 inches down from the tip of your tusks. And you remember the apprentice measuring like the whole, because your tusks start thicker and go to a point.
Mm-hmm.
And so and she holds it up and she looks questioning at you like, may I?
Yeah, he'll bend over so he's at about her height.
She actually pulls over a box and stands on it, so you don't have to bend over. She's pretty tall, so that about evens it out. So she holds it up and she shows you how it actually fits around, like the bottom of this short sword actually looks like a cup almost, and so it sits on the tusk, and then the metal wraps around it, but it's been padded on the inside.
Almost like for a prosthetic leg or arm or something?
Kind of. It's to get the best fit, because like if you've got metal on a wooden tusk and then do a strap, it's going to slide around a bunch.
Right.
And it actually slides onto the tip. It goes about 3/4 of the way around. and then there are two straps, like basically right on top of each other, two really short straps. So you get it in there, and there's a piece of metal that you pull down, and it tightens the whole thing down onto your tusk.
He will kind of laugh through his trunk and smile at her as she's fitting it on.
She grins at you and she fiddles with it a little bit, and she gets it on there, and she's looking at it, and she reaches out like she's gonna grab it, and she looks at you questioningly, like, "Is this okay?"
He'll lean forward and let her do her thing.
She grabs it and like jiggles it, and it doesn't move, right? And you actually don't move either. Like, she's not doing it that hard. And then she jumps off the box, and she gestures to everybody to lean back or like get out of the way. And then she looks at you and she shakes her head back and forth really hard, and then like gestures at you.
Druge will do that same gesture back at her.
So it doesn't come off; it stays attached to your tusk.
Perfect.
And she grins and takes the other one, and she gets up on the box and she does it to that one. And this one actually is a little loose, and she takes it back over to the bench and fiddles with it for a second, and she comes back over and sticks it back on. And she has you do the same thing, like she jiggles it, and then she has you shake your head, and so you've got, feet of steel coming off, like nice folded metal steel coming off the ends of your tusks. And you notice the bit that fits over your actual tusk has little like metal designs, like raised metal designs that go about 6 inches up the actual blade as well, and it mimics the shape of a tusk. And it looks vaguely like your runes. They're not your runes, but it echoes the same shape of them.
Druge will kind of notice that and run a finger along them and kind of trace the designs and reach into his pouch and pull out another 10 gold and press it into her hand.
She grins. She looks at it in her hand and she grins, and she gestures at you and like back and forth between the two of you, and like taps the sword tusk, and she just grins at you like this was one of the coolest things, right? Like, and she holds back the 10 gold, like that's worth it for me.
He smiles down at her and just, thank you, this is beautiful.
She makes an odd gesture, like she touches her chin and gestures towards the floor when she does it, and sticks the gold in her pocket. And then she puts her hands on her hips, like, "Yep, job well done."
Does that gesture look familiar to Quentin in any way?
I don't know if any of you know this language.
Totally fine. Just wondering.
I think I might have to make up some custom rules for that, but then she looks back at Martha, like and like gestures to her with two hands, like, "I'm sorry, and you were saying?"
I'm sorry, what was that?
The blacksmith gestures back at you, like, "And what were you saying?" Because she had interrupted you to do the sword thing.
Right, because I'm dumb.
You're not dumb.
Silver Bear.
We're searching for something called Silver Bear, and we were led to believe that you might know where to find it or had some here.
For the first time, roll a... It doesn't work if I ask you to roll something, does it? I'm new to skill challenges.
Sure it does. No, you can totally do that.
She
You're the
makes
DM.
a face, and I'm going to need one of you to roll for reading the face.
Oh.
That will not be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not proficient in insight, so nope.
Is anyone proficient in insight besides me?
Geth is.
Let me get back to my table and I'll roll.
Back to your table?
I was in the kitchen. I'm doing things.
Awkwardly.
Everybody's staring at each other awkwardly.
Quentin would probably be the best person to
You'd
lead
think
this.
so.
Geth is actually pretty good at it too, though.
For insight, it's a 12.
So because you know her, like you've dealt with her the longest, you can tell that she looks like closed, right? Like she's
Like more reserved than usual.
yeah, like the openness of her expression is sort of shuttered. Like she's like very neutral faced. And she raises an eyebrow at you, Quentin, like, what is this?
We're putting together a few items to help heal a friend who's gonna need a bit extra beyond the standard healing magics. And how much? Sorry, DM. How much does Brandel know about the healing stuff? Because he was probably like Wordman. You were with us when we tried the first time to get materials, or is it just Geth that kind of has an idea?
I mean, Geth made the list.
Yeah.
So like I mean, I don't know what he is specifically going to do or going to try.
Okay. So I'd kind of say I'm not quite sure how this all exactly works. I'm just helping find the list, but these folks, and I'll gesture to like Geth, Harlequin, and Brandel, say they seem to know a bit more about it.
So she rubs her chin, and then she uses the tongs to make the ding noise again. And all of her apprentices look up, and she gestures to one of them. And this young man looks the oldest of the lot. And he comes over, and he's like, "Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you?" And she starts to gesture at him, and they're very complicated gestures. And he stares at her intently, and he says, "She wants you to know that what you're asking for is a trade secret. And to reveal that let's see, she's saying to reveal the source? Yes, the source of I guess what you're looking for is well, bad business, basically. Does that make sense to you guys?" And the blacksmith turns back to you like, "Yeah, that's what I wanted to say."
Yeah. Oh, we were directed your way for this resource specifically, and we don't mean to take any business from you. And honestly, I don't know that we need to know anything about how it affects your trade, other than we're using it for some healing magic. Is that right, Geth? Maybe you could explain how we're going to use it, and that might put her mind at ease.
And Geth says, "Yeah, I'm just trying to heal a dragon. Actually, that's in the forest, just outside the city, here. And she's really hurt bad, and we just really want to heal her. But to do that, I have to get creative, and this is one of the ingredients that I think I need. I don't think he would look at the rest of you when he promises that none of you will do anything with this information other than heal this dragon, and he's like being very sincere. And he's gonna roll a persuasion check.
Do you want me to roll for him, or do you want to roll?
I want to roll one
Great.
of my new dice and see if it betrays me. But what's his plus?
+4.
So he actually fails to convince her, to persuade her, and she looks. She just shakes her
Can
head.
I give bardic inspiration in non-combat situations, or is it too late for that?
I don't know. Tech?
Typically, it's supposed to be before success or failure is declared, isn't it?
Okay.
Since
Technically,
you
yes.
didn't tell us the number, can I use one of my portents?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
All right. He actually rolled a 12, whatever his addition.
And it was a +3?
+4.
+4. So she looks like she's not gonna like she crosses her arms as Geth is, for Geth actually being quite verbose, and she uncrosses them and rubs her chin, and she points at Geth like, "You made a promise here." And Geth says, "Yes, I promise. We will only use it. We'll only use it to heal our friend." She rubs her chin again, and she says, and she kind of shrugs, like, "Oh, all right." And the apprentice is sort of edging away, and she gestures him back, and she gestures at him again, and he goes, "Bindle?" And she nods, and he says, "Oh, I guess you need to go talk to Bindle. He's the and he looks at the blacksmith, and she nods, and he says he brings all kinds of stuff to us, like some of our we use certain he lives on the seashore, and he brings us all kinds of stuff, like any interesting driftwood he finds, or like, and he actually gestures at Quentin's shield, and he says, "That's where we got the wood for that, actually. Some iron wood floating around forever. That's why it's got that color, but it's still really hard." And he says, he brings us all kinds of stuff. He's brought us weird rocks that we use in our smelting sometimes, and some of our other forge work, get some different colors on things, and for some of our fancy work. So yeah, you got to go find Bindle. He lives down off the seashore. And he gestures to the east. And the blacksmith has crossed her arms again, like she's not happy with this, but it's happening, she guesses. Oh, then she makes like a gesture, like, "Okay, we're done here. Thank you, bye." She like starts, and the apprentice is like, "Ah, yes, okay. Well, we'll see you in." And the blacksmith holds up 2 fingers. He's like, "Yes, 2 days. We'll see you in 2 days. Thank you so much for coming. We're very busy. Goodbye." And like herds you out of the tent. And
Before we leave, I will detach the tusk swords.
okay.
You're not walking through town skewering people in a stick.
All right, we are gonna take a 5-minute break because I need more water and stuff.
Look at that.
So
Okay.
internet, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So we'll 5 minutes. We'll be back. Bye. So we're back. I'm gonna try turning up the volume on stuff and see if it's a little easier to hear. Okay. Oop, see, that's really loud. All right, let's see what we can do here. All right. So she gives you directions, and you guys are instructed to go elsewhere. Where are you going?
I reckon we go after wherever she sent us. Yeah.
Yep, sounds good to me.
So you head outside the. Yeah, see, that's really loud too. So you guys head outside the blacksmith's sort of shop area, or the like barn thing, and to your. I have a map for this, don't I? Kind of. I have a bad map for this. Here's my terrible map for this. So where the road ends is actually on the left of the screen is the city itself, and I forgot to build the blacksmith's shop, but it is to the left of the road, or above the road, if you will. So there's down by where these trees start, there's a track you can see going from the road, like a very faint track going off the road and into the trees. And it is headed generally down towards the seashore.
When you say track, is this animal track? Is this like cart track? What kind of tracks are we talking here?
Looks like an animal track. Or like a footpath.
Could I check it for any animal tracks and see if there's anything that might be a concern as we head off the street?
You
or off the
can,
road?
if you'd like to use one of your fancy skills.
I would. Oh, I'm actually not proficient in survival. I have nature. I'm proficient in nature.
How would you use nature to check this out?
I'd be looking to identify if there were any, like, if it was mammal or if they were, like, hooved, like deer, any sizes. It may not necessarily be tracks themselves. It may be, like, do I know if it looks like a game trail versus, like, a human footpath?
Nope. I have no skills here.
Okay.
See if, like, any particular trees. Well, let me see. So it's the point down, so that is a 9. Okay, so 9 plus 2 is 11.
So it doesn't. You don't see any particular footprints or anything. It
Okay.
did rain last night, so that could have smudged anything away. But it's not overgrown or anything. Like it's been used. It's used
Okay.
regularly enough to be a very faint track through the tall grasses. Excuse me. Okay, so you guys start heading down this track.
Mm-hmm.
It's really faint in places, and it's tough for you to see where it goes. So I'm gonna need another check.
Are we looking for anything specific?
You're looking for.
I will use survival.
Oh, that works.
Go for it, Harley.
The wizard has survival and the ranger doesn't.
Yeah.
Neither does the furball, dude.
The blacksmith's apprentice tells you that the guy you're looking for, whose name is Bindle, lives in a shack on the edge of the ocean. And that's where you should find him. Like, he usually comes to her, but they know that that's where he lives.
2.
Right, so I'm going ahead and rolling this, right?
Mm-hmm. Go for it. What are you looking for?
I'm just trying to keep on the track and make sure that we're not going somewhere weird and or a predator track.
And what was that chuckle for?
That chuckle was for a natural 20,
Nice.
which I believe brings me to 24. Not that it really matters.
Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
I start discussing the fauna of the area. I don't know.
Now, I think what will end up happening here is you will. I'm sorry, I'm yawning so much. You will very clearly see, like, where others are sort of like, where is this track? Like, you can see where the sort of winding path it takes, and you know that this isn't an animal track. Like, they tend to be to follow, like, they follow the flow. You know, they don't cut through things. But this is sort of a nonsensical path, and yet it has been followed over and over again in this particular pattern. And so you start to notice, like, that it touches every single oak tree between, like, the road, and as you continue moving on, like, each oak tree the path goes up next to. And there are rocks all over the place, and there's usually a gray stone, but every now and then on top of one of the larger gray stones, a sort of odd whitish stone has been set on top of it, and the path winds near that too. It's subtle, but you see it. And you know exactly which direction to go to. Which brings you to the seashore. So the trees end rather abruptly at the top of sort of a short cliff. It's like maybe 6 feet tall, and it's as if something has sheared it away, and it's dirt all the way down to sand dunes. And there's a steep but passable track where like path down this steep hill, and somebody has embedded rocks into the dirt, and it's like very hard packed dirt with the tree roots holding it together. And so there's tree roots at some steps and then rocks at other steps. And so you get down to the edge of you get down to the sand, and it's a very gritty sand with like mostly tan colored sand, but there's some black sand mixed in too. And the cliffs stretch on either side of you as far as you can see. And the beach here is pretty shallow. It's maybe only 10 feet to the from the cliff to the water, and it also stretches as far as you can see. And the edge of the continent here is sort of dippy and curvy, and so the spot that you come down in is in the deepest part of this sort of dip. And to your right, where the cliff, instead of there being a beach, it's cliff right down to the ocean, you see a really sort of ramshackle shed right up against the cliff. And the trees above it, on the cliff above it, their roots have come all the way down to this beach. And the shack that you see is built in cobbled pieces around like 2 or 3 large roots that have come down.
I guess we're moving towards the ramshackle murder shed.
Why does it have to be a murder shed? A perfectly nice shed.
Beachfront living.
So you okay? No dying on my stream. I've decided.
After the stream, though, that's fine.
That's fine, but not on my stream. I don't have to deal with the paperwork.
Nobody except the characters?
I choose not to comment. So you get closer to this shack, and it from far away it looks very sort of haphazard. But as you get closer to it, you can see that a lot of care has been taken in. So the pieces may all be sort of mismatchy, but they've been assembled in a very pleasing way. There's a progression to the colors you see, even though the different pieces are all sort of mismatchy. And it all comes together at a very sort of fitting, cozy little snug spot. Snug spot? No. Whatever.
Snug spot sounds good.
And you can see about 2 feet away, like between the. If you're standing by the shed and you're looking towards the ocean, about 2 feet away, you can see the high tide line. So you can see that this doesn't flood very much, and it seems to be up on like its own little rise. And there's a path from. If you look back, you see there's actually a path of stones from the slope down the cliff up to the door of this little shack. And then when you get to like the 4th stone from the shack, around each larger stone, seashells have been embedded in a ring in the sand.
That's adorable.
Yes, well, I didn't want it to be a murder house, so I made it cute. What do you guys do next?
We go into the. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just following through.
You're allowed to make decisions too.
Okay, well, we go into the house.
Would you like to knock on the door of the house?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Oh, word.
Are we, like, at the door already?
You're at the door.
Okay.
You knock
I am
on the
very
door.
much. I want to be upfront the fact that I'm complaining about this walk.
Oh, right. Yes. I appreciate you making that clear. That is an important part of Brandon's character.
Yes, I'm not super happy with having to go trouncing through the sand.
Is it the sand that really gets you? Like, you get to the beach and you're like, oh my god, sand, really?
I hate
Coarse,
sand.
rough, gets
Yeah, and it gets
everywhere.
So,
Yeah.
the house is super quiet, and you knock on the door, and there's no response. And you actually edge open the door a little bit, and it's dark inside. It's not the dark of like it's been abandoned. It's the dark of like no one's home.
Do we see any silver bear?
You do not know what that looks like.
But do we see it?
You don't see anything that looks like stone. Apologies to the stream for my puppy. We will cook her and eat her later.
Nice.
You don't see anything that looks like stone. You see a bunch of seashells. You see a bunch of sea glass. You see jars of sea glass. You see baskets of like spoons. And it's all very neat and orderly. You see like a little bed snugged up in the back, and some windows with curtains in them, and like a kitchen type area, like a little fire pit kind of thing, but no real stone type things. Now would probably be a good time to check around using some of your fancy skills to see if you see where Bindle may have gone.
Well, I guess I'll do it then. Because I have investigation.
Do it up.
So
Here's where we find out that Brandle's a beach for Bog.
Yes. Oh, I mean, apparently,
That would be amazing.
18 plus 4?
Holy shit.
Yikes.
You're garbage in the city, you're garbage in the woods, but the beach.
So where Harlech noticed the winding path being odd and that it was hitting oak trees and stuff, Brandle, you actually noticed that the stone that leads from the path to the door of the shack, there's a door in the back of the shack. It's a bit smaller, and there's a different color stone leading from that back door around the corner that this shack is built next to. And when you follow it sort of casually, you realize that the cliff here has come out in a sharp point. And if you scramble over a couple of rocks that actually match the same color rock that's in the sand leading from the back door, right, so you do this, you kind of like hop up on top of one of these rocks, and you realize there's a bunch of tidal pools in another shallow beach around this point.
Oh, okay. Guys, I think I found something.
What'd you find? Quentin will walk over and take a look.
It's a beach.
It's more beach.
Right,
We
it's a
found
beach,
water
and
on a beach.
what are
Great.
we doing here?
You got what, a 20, 22, 25 to find water on a beach?
22?
From what I understand, we're looking for rocks.
I gave you a whole path to follow.
No,
I was very clear about the
we
path
know
to
that.
follow, and you're
We
all being
understand
very
that.
sassy at me.
No, we're not being sassy at you. Brandel hasn't explained what he found.
He's
Or
just saying
beach.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's not very helpful, dude.
Is there any particular reason you felt the need to go this way?
Well,
You can tell them you know.
yes.
You have the words and everything. And you can
Ooh,
use
is it
them.
magic?
I mean, I don't know if it's magic.
Do you want me
There's
to-
more of the same rocks from the shack on this path.
So it's a trail of rocks, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, it's better than nothing. Let's go.
Right, follow the
Thank
trail
you.
of rocks. There's
Thank
I don't mean to
you.
be insensitive, but this is a beach.
So Marthala clambers over the rocks.
Go.
And when you get close to the tidal pools, you can actually see a dude like in one of the tidal pools, and you can only see him from like the head up. So he's like shoulders deep into this tidal pool, and he's like rooting around in it.
Does he see me approaching,
His back
or
is
am I
to you.
sneaking up on him?
I don't think you're sneaking, but his back is to you, and the waves are pretty crashy.
Hello.
He looks up and he looks around, and he sees you, and he's like, "Oh, hello."
Hi. How are you?
And he kind of like looks around, and he looks down at his feet, and he says, "Wet?"
Yes. I noticed that. Hey, I don't want to take up too much of your evening. My friends and I have traveled out because we were told you might be able to help us find something.
And he says, "Oh, okay. What might that be?"
Well, why don't you come on out and dry off a little bit, maybe get warm?
And he says, "Well, I would, but I'm busy, you see." And
Oi,
Look.
mate, we're busy too.
I don't like it when people interrupt my bath time either, but this is actually very important. There's an ill friend that we're trying to help, so if you could just for a minute.
he looks very perplexed, and he says, I'm not bathing." And he gestures down at the tidal pool, and he says, I'm picking up like materials that I sell. And the tidal pools are only empty, and it's the only way you can find these particular kinds of stones and things.
Oh, well, great. Well, let me help you. I'm gonna get as close as I can to him.
As you
Without-
get as close as you can, he seems to
Oh, no.
fall away from you. And you as you're getting closer, you see the ground at his feet start to crumble. Please roll a dex check
Oh boy.
as like a
Is that
reaction.
everyone or just Marthala?
I think Marthala is the only one who stated she was close enough to do this.
Probably need just straight dexterity.
Is there like a dex save?
There's a saving.
Can
throw,
I use
yeah.
my acrobatics maybe? Because I'm
Oh.
good at that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Can I do like a backflip out of the way?
I mean,
That's a 6.
It's all about the tumbling.
this is actually less of a you getting away and more of a you snagging Bindle. So you see the ground start to fall away, and you throw yourself flat on the ground at the top of this tidal pool. It's very deep. It's like a 4-foot deep tidal pool. And as you throw yourself to the ground, the side of the tidal pool that's facing the ocean also starts to like slough into the tidal pool, and Bindle is just sinking rapidly into what is opening up into a huge hole at the
Can I
bottom of this
go
tidal
and
pool.
grab him
And
before
she-
he sinks to the bottom?
Well, Marthal actually, like he throws his hands up, like he's trying to leap up, but the ground is disappearing, and she manages to grab both of his hands with her hands, and he hits the side of the what is now this wall of this hole with like an oomph, and the water just starts pouring in on him from the ocean, and Marthal has got him in her grip, but she can't pull him up because the ocean is basically trying to drag him and now her down into this hole. But you do manage
Just
to
pick
grab.
up Marthala.
Yep.
Yeah, I will kind of fire him in line to Marthala and try and grab her and him and pull them.
Do you have a relevant skill for this?
I have athletics.
Very relevant.
That sounds good to me.
Wait.
Okay.
I would very much like to inspire him here. If that's quite all right.
There we go. Yeah, do that.
That's a good idea.
Cool.
Oi, somebody grab her. You with the frog thing, grab her. There you go. Magic.
Lovely.
Great.
I really appreciate the magic you've thrown in there on the end.
That was inspiring.
I'm so inspired right now.
Quick, grab her.
So Druge, you run forward, and what do you? So go ahead and roll for me.
It's a 16 plus 6 plus 5.
Damn.
Dang.
Plus how much? What?
Would you
That's
say
like
16
3
plus
dice,
6
dude.
plus 5?
Yeah.
So you
The bardic.
sprint forward faster than Aloxodon seem like anybody assumes Aloxodon should move. It's quite startling actually. And on the heels of you sprinting, you hear Brannon in the background, like someone grab her, and you're
Right.
annoyed, and it just makes you move faster.
No.
And you grab Marthala around the waist and haul her upright with such a strong pull that it pulls Bindle out as well. And Bindle actually kind of goes flying through the air, like, whoa! And Marthala is now trying to hold him down from, like, being chucked up in the air. And Druge, Marthala, and Bindle sort of fall to the side. And the ocean is just pouring into this new hole where the tidal pool's collapsed at the bottom. And Bindle's like, oh my god, oh,
Are you okay?
what is, and he's like trying to get his breath. And he finally gets his breath back, and he's like scrambling away from the ocean. And he puts his head in his hands, and he's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you saved me. Oh, you.
Well, wasn't that exciting?
And he just looks up at you sort of bewildered, and he's that's never happened before. I don't. And he gets up on his, gets up, and he sort of like shakily like edges towards the hole to like look in, and there's this waterfall down into this endless cavern apparently, and you can't see into it. It's completely black, and he's just sort of like shaking, and he backs away. And he's got this bag. He's just soaked, but he's got this bag around his shoulder, like hanging at his side, and he all of a sudden he like jerks it open, and he looks in, and he sigh of relief, and he pats it, and he turns around and he goes, well, I'm done for today. Could I make you guys some tea? It's the least I can do. And he starts scrambling back over the rocks towards his little hut.
That sounds amazing. Tea, Brannon? You want some tea? Let's go get some tea.
Actually, make
No. We're gonna go get some tea.
But the least he could do is just give us the thing.
We'll discuss that when he isn't in fear of his life.
Yes,
I would
and
love tea.
in my
Yeah,
shoes,
he sounds great.
I want to go back.
By the time the rest of you get back to, he's already started making tea, and he's bustling around in his little area, and he says, sorry, I know we won't all fit in here. And he pulls out like cushions, and he like a stack of cushions, and he hands them to whoever comes in the house first, and is like, just put these outside. And he's still bustling around, and he's got like a tray. And after a couple minutes, he comes out with like, how many are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's got 8 cups of tea. And he starts handing them out. You're all sitting on cushions, and he hands them out. And he says, I can't, I'll never be able to thank you enough. I'm at your service.
I am definitely poking around that hole.
You're still over by the hole poking around?
Oh, yeah. That is a sinkhole, much like another sinkhole that I decided it was a great idea to go investigate. So I'm probably investigating this one, though I probably won't climb in because I've learned my lesson.
There's not much to investigate. You've got the ocean on one side, and then 3 walls of a tidal pool that are left, and the fourth wall, if you will, of this tidal pool is collapsed inward, and the sea is just gushing into this hole that's about 5 feet across, and it is completely dark where the water is rushing to. It's just endless. Like every time the ocean comes in, it just fills up a little bit more. And high tide seems to be coming in, which is above the tide pools. Like the high tide of this part of the beach goes all the way up to the cliffs. So like your shoes are getting wet.
That is a case for a familiar. So,
Guess you got to get you one of those.
I have one of those. I mentioned it the first episode I was in.
I forgot what it was, though.
It was an owl.
It was an owl.
You're gonna
which
send
sees
a
in the dark.
little...
Haha.
Yeah, but
it's a
like,
familiar.
Dude,
They're
owls
not
are
a
amazing.
real animal.
I know, but like this, like I don't think you understand. Like the hole is full of water. Like the water is pouring in. Like there's no.
You're gonna drown your owl, bro.
Yeah, like.
I mean, it can't actually do that, but I understand your statement.
There's
so
no
what you're saying
space.
is, I'm arguing with the owl while I'm standing by the hole. That is entirely possible.
So you called it into being, and you're like, go down in the hole. And the owl looks at the hole, and it looks back at you, and just fluffs off all its feathers.
Come on, I'm sure it's only a small hole, and then like a whole bunch of empty.
He picks up one of his feet and tucks it up into his belly.
I imagine I'm doing this for quite a while.
He turns his head all the way around and closes his eyes.
So continue the regular conversation while I argue with my owl.
The sea is now up to your knees. The rocks going back over to the other side are disappearing rapidly.
Well, damn.
Could I be more clear?
I will stand further and further away from the hole, but I'll probably still try to convince the owl until there's no obvious way to get into the hole.
Roll
then
me
I'll
a
be like,
perception
"You're
check.
fine."
Did you roll me a perception check?
Sorry, I ran into the other room because I had walked away from my dice.
That's a terrible idea.
22. I'm rolling pretty high.
You realize, with all of your attendant intelligence, that if you stay here for any more time, you are going to be swept out to the sea and die.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm moving away.
Nope. I made it very clear that this part of the beach gets full of ocean. Like, there's no beach. High tide is the cliff, which is like 7 feet tall, and it's about to cover the rocks, and you're going to get trapped here.
Fine, I'm going.
Great. So tea. You all have tea.
It's so good.
And he says, I'm in your debt, and I'm at your service.
Well, it's funny. We actually came here because we heard that you were an expert in the ways of the silver bear.
And he cocks his head sideways and he says, you mean the rock?
Yes.
And he looks perplexed and he says, you saved my life and you want a rock?
I mean, that and the tea's really good too, if you had a risk.
And he says,
Right, any money that you might give to us to save your life.
and he says, I don't have any money. I haven't taken
We
my
don't need any money. Just the rock and the tea recipe, and we'll be on our way. Just stand out of your shoes and relax.
And he looks, he stands up and he says, "Oh, okay." And he looks like really like confused and it's kind of suspicious. And he goes into his house and he comes back out and he has like a shallow basket. And in the basket are every color of rock imaginable. And he sits down on his cushion and he starts sorting through them. And he pulls out about 3, we'll say, hang on.
Can I try to stealthily detect magic?
Sure. Don't you just do that?
I mean, I don't know how it works.
It's your character. You're supposed to know how it works.
Sure, we'll say I just do that. So
okay.
I'm gonna detect that. Yeah.
You're killing me.
What is it? Do you have any gestures or anything special when you do that? Give me some lore word, man.
Yes, indeed. Give me some lore.
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 It's really a racial trait, so I don't think I do.
Do you have to like scrunch up your nose or sneeze or something?
You have to...
Is it like a one a day or something?
Yeah, it's like a one a day thing. So
you're concentrating on these
So
rocks.
maybe your eyes glow, or any number of other.
It's literally D&D. You can do
verbal thematic components, but
does it if it's a racial trait?
Oh yes, it
As
has
racial.
verbal. It does. Yeah, I just opened the spell. It says verbal and somatic. So wait, somatic is what?
Sound.
gestures.
Oh, my
eyes. So yeah, I'll just like scratch my nose and try to say something really low. Well, like, yeah.
So you, the rocks that he's pulling out of the basket, you're used to seeing magic as sort of like an aura. And everything has an aura. And the rocks that he's pulling out of the basket, and like, rock tends to have a weird sort of depressed aura because rocks are made up of, just eons old dead stuff squished together. And you see that too, kind of thing. And it has its own kind of energy. But the rocks he's pulling out glow like a little bit fainter or brighter. It's still very, very faint. And if you didn't know that he was pulling out specific rocks that you guys are interested in specifically for its magical properties, you wouldn't really have noticed. But you think there's like just a little bit of a difference between the 3 rocks he pulls out.
The different rocks. Okay.
And so he pulls those out and he keeps sorting through and he goes, I think that's all I have. I usually sell these to the blacksmith. But they're yours.
Well, so here's a question for you.
How much do you sell?
Stop it. She sent us here. And she mentioned that there was some less than above board application for.
No, just that he's a trade secret. This man is very prized, apparently.
He looks very bewildered and he says, I am?
It's probably your tea.
He looks completely like he just nods knowingly, like, yes. That makes sense. Yeah. All right, you have successfully retrieved the silver bear. You have 3 of those in your inventory. It is a fairly innocuous looking gray rock.
3 silver bears.
Who's gonna take that one? Who's calling dibs?
I'll carry him since I asked for him.
I think Geth takes them.
Geth takes them
because he wants all the ingredients.
Yeah.
Yes, but someone else could write it down since I don't know that
makes
we
sense.
add that.
DM can. We can do it later.
But I'm not gonna. All right. I just realized that it's 1 minute from 8, so we're gonna do the learned and the RP points real fast. What'd you guys learn?
We learned that silver bear is apparently hard to find, but not hard to find. But it was hard for us to find.
It's a dandelion.
What?
That was
Do
the
you guys-
analogy I used earlier. It was
Does-
a dandelion.
Do you guys do this to make fun of me?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No?
What else did you learn? I'm willing to hear submissions from our audience as well, both for the RP point and the learned.
The way that I understood our interaction with the blacksmith was that there was something that was not good about the silver bear. Like,
It was either not good or it was like something that like she wanted to keep close to her chest, so people had to come to her for it.
That was the impression I was trying to give.
okay.
It's like her
We
secret
did go to
sauce.
her. She couldn't give it to us. Okay, cool. Then scratch that. Never mind. Ignore that.
Tentacles are surprisingly dangerous, apparently.
That's not a shocker. Has any of you ever lived by the ocean? Of course, tide pools are dangerous.
No.
Well, but I was
Nope.
also thinking that like there was a giant chasm that opened under the city, and now like the way you described how deep that hole went, that also seems like it might be somewhat related, maybe.
See, that's what I was
I-
thinking.
Don't know.
I'm thinking of them as hot springs.
what you're
not as
talking
tide
about.
pools.
Yeah.
What else did
Yeah.
you learn? Go ahead.
That
Oh, we-
Marie might be psychic or something.
We learned that the flower, the dragon scale flower, it grows really well. Like it started to take root and regrow, just in a day's time. So it's resilient,
That's true.
which
Good.
lends itself to the healing properties it supposedly possesses.
It sure does. All right, RP point.
Also,
So-
Marthala has a sugar daddy, but you know.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But only for stabbing stuff.
Okay, so sugar daddy. So for the stream's knowledge, RP point is something I encourage my players to do, to call out moments in the game that were particularly role-playing noteworthy. It doesn't have to necessarily be a happy moment, nor does it have to necessarily be a sad moment. It has to be a very like good role-playing moment, and then they all vote, and whichever one gets the highest votes gets an RP point, is what we call it. RP point. And I do accept nominations from the stream as well. I've never gotten one from the stream, so it'll be fun if we ever get one. One day we'll have a big enough following to get one, and it'll be great. Right, RP point, go.
Marthala for casually slipping in, yeah, the stones, and then like was like the stones and the tea recipe.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
It was good tea, y'all.
He gives you that.
Let's say it's very on brand for Brandon to complain about having to walk places.
Yeah.
Grumpy old man that he
Look,
is.
I got little legs.
Harlech almost killing himself in the name of science.
Yep, there you go.
Himself and his familiar.
Yeah,
I was waiting for
Harlech
somebody
tried
to say that.
murder an owl.
Learning, not science, learning.
It's
Ow.
Exploration is very important.
Brandel finding all the things and not telling anyone about it.
That really is, and forgive the pun, but it is really on brand for you.
I hate it.
I said forgive the pun because I didn't mean the pun. It just was a
I
good
know.
phrase.
Ugh.
All right, we've got 4. Any others desperately needed to be nominated?
Can we add one more thing to our learns now that you mentioned that?
Sure.
That Brandel is apparently a beach furbog.
I was thinking maybe desert,
Wow,
but beach
bro.
is fine.
Did you say mahalo?
Yes.
Can we add that?
No. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm willing to accept votes Remember, you're going to vote using emojis. Going once, going twice for the stream to toss in a. I'm pretending the 6 at the top of the screen means someone's actually still
Suggesting
watching.
Heart cat size 100% and eggplant.
So Harlock almost killing himself has gotten 2 points. Brandel finding all the things, not telling about them, has 1. Oh. The Harlock's almost killing himself had 3 for a second, and then it got removed.
I was switching my emoji. Sorry.
And then Marthala casually slipping in the tea recipe with kneading the stones is 2. I'm missing 1, I think. There are 6 of you, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, there are 6.
Yeah, there's 6 of you. I'm waiting for one more vote.
It's Wordman trying to find the appropriate.
Are there 6 of us?
Yeah, there's Marthala and Brandon. There's Quentin. There's Harlock. There's Druge, and there's Brandel.
So who hasn't voted?
Raise your hand if you haven't voted.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I was counting the people in Discord. I forgot.
They're sharing a mic. Yeah.
Brandon. Yeah. I was like, there's 5 of us in Discord.
Seriously, who didn't vote yet?
Random guy. Yeah. Sorry. 1.
Oh, I can tell this, can't I? So that's Wordman.
We know
Random
voted.
guy. That's
Wait.
Stash Man.
Marthala, you haven't voted.
Yeah, I have.
Well, I don't see it.
Did you? I don't see it.
Oh, well, it didn't take. I'm voting for myself, obviously, because I'm
Okay.
fucking serious.
There you go.
I will add
I'm
an emoji
sorry.
for you.
I clicked the thing and a thing popped up. My bad.
There you
I
go.
added an emoji for you. Okay, so Marthala casually slipping in the tea recipe with kneading the stones is our winner this evening. So Marthala is
Yay.
going to have a new RP point for the next time. Wait, why are there now a million emojis?
Because we can't help ourselves.
You guys are killing me. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our stream this evening. Sorry we ran a little bit over. So I'm going to hang up on the stream, and then I'm going to talk to my players because I like my players, even though my stream is very nice. You're all great. Bye.